Hello, everyone. My name is Melvin Hernandez, and today I will be doing a podcast with Lesly Lopez. Leslie, may you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Lesly Lopez and I'm 19 years old.
Thank you, Leslie. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where do you go to college? Do you go to college? Do you work? Just start off based on when were you born and what's your ethnicity for right now?
I was born on November 2003 in Los Angeles near Hollywood area. I do go to college. I go to Cal City Lake and I am currently working. Me and my family is from Mexico, so I consider myself Hispana and Latina. No, my parents are undocumented and they came a year or so after their marriage.
Okay, great. We'll get into more about your parents, but for right now, just tell me how your childhood was. So what was it like going to school around that area?
So growing up, my parents are very strict parents. We lived in a small room, the three of us, until my other two sisters came along. To get to school, we didn't have a car. Not until my dad started working. He's our main breadwinner, and my mom was responsible for raising us, so she doesn't work. Maybe until recently, she's gotten a job. So after my dad started working, we got a car, and my mom got her license. I think it was around the time that the undocumented people were being allowed a license at the DMV, if I remember correctly, and so she went to get one, and then ever since she's been taking us. But before that, we would just walk.
So how was high school for you? Tell me a little bit about it.
High school was nice. It was alright. I did cross country for a little bit, but it didn't last long. But I was mostly involved in this international dance club. There you go. So we would bring in like different dances from different places and cultures, and then we would all incorporate a dance. And on Cinco de Mayo, we would dance in like our auditorium or theater.
Were you involved in after school programs, or was that just a dance?
No, I wasn't really involved in like any other after school program other than sport. My mom's pretty strict, so she didn't want me to be missing out on my studies or like missing school to go on away games. Studying hard is my mom's main priority for me and my sister, so she really didn't want us to be in other activities.
What about, you mentioned the dance club or program that you were in. Did that help you feel involved?
The dance club definitely helped me meet other people because it was open to anybody, not just magnet students. So I made like a bunch of friends, a bunch of connections. Even with the teachers, some dances were student-led and others teachers were involved in teaching the dance. So I guess we became like a small community within the school.
Has there ever been a time, even if it's not inside of school, has there ever been a time outside of school where you felt like you were treated differently because of your color or your race or because of the way you looked? They discriminalized you maybe, or they prejudiced you?
Well, maybe it's just thinking like too much into it, but I guess like wherever you go, you kind of do get like, well, specifically like in restaurants, we like to eat out on restaurants on Sundays. And, sometimes you do get the vibe, especially if it's, like, a non-Mexican or, like, Hispanic, Latino restaurant. You kind of get this vibe that they do treat you a little differently, especially when, like, my parents would be like, oh, hay alguien que habla español, does anybody speak Spanish here? They'll sometimes be very rude about it, be like, no, nobody speaks Spanish here. So then I have to come in because, I do know English, and, like, so I can, like, fend for us or, like, order for us and things like that.
Okay, so going back to what you had mentioned, that you were treated differently in the restaurant, has that ever affected you in your mental health or the way you see yourself?
But it does get me thinking, like, if that happens in front of my eyes while I'm with my parents who have the same, like, complexion as I do and are undocumented, like, what happens when I'm not there? Like, I wonder if they experience those, like negative experiences, and like what do they do in that context? I haven't really like asked them. I guess maybe they're not comfortable speaking about it, but it's something that does cross my mind, and I guess in a way like mentally affects me.
Yeah, right, definitely. And then especially for other families who also who may not even have a English speaker in their family. All right, so now going back to the area you lived in or in your school, or like what percentage were you hanging around more people of the same color as you and race or language, or what was it like for your peers when you would socialize with them?
Yeah. All throughout school, well, my community is mostly like Hispanic, Latino, Asians, and then some black people as well. In schools, I would mostly hang out with, people who are also Hispanos or Latinos. My best friend is actually Indonesian though, but her parents are also undocumented. So, we were all coming from the same like background with like undocumented parents and such. But that was elementary, and also that followed me through middle school, and I guess in high school as well. But in high school, our high school was next to, or would lend part of our school to an all girls school, and those girls were mostly like whites. So I started
So
seeing more white
yeah,
people in the
so
community.
yeah, so each one had their own little group, and they usually hung around like the people they shared most of the same experience, or like most.
Yeah, that, and also just like trends here and there, people who you click with and like follow
Yeah.
the same things and have similar interests.
Okay, and you would usually hang out with, or like who you were the most closest with?
With my like Hispanic friends or Latino friends.
Okay, great. And did you ever feel weird like talking with those, or it's not that you felt weird, but you didn't feel comfortable talking with like, I don't know, white or black people or other like different ethnicities?
Maybe to some extent, just because I didn't know what we had in common, but because they would also hang out with their own people who were similar to them, we didn't really like clash or have the opportunity to, I guess, interact as much. Sure, there were a bunch of resources, especially because many of us were probably first generation students, given that our parents were undocumented. So I would definitely take advantage of that, especially because I am a first generation. I'm the oldest. So I took advantage of that because I was lost. I didn't really know what the movement was or what I had to do. I couldn't ask my parents. And if anything, my parents were asking me, like, what have you been doing to get into university?
With growing up with your parents, I know you mentioned that they were pretty strict. What was it like in the environment where you grew up in, like in their house? How was that?
Yeah, my parents were very strict, and like now that I'm older, I see that it was just because they wanted the best for me. At times, it did feel kind of like I kind of want my own space because we've always been together, like in the same room, like even till now, and like I'm 19, so it's just been hard. But I understand where they're coming from.
So you mentioned that you lived in a tight space. So was that because you guys wanted to, or was it because you guys were forced to because of your economic side or financial status?
But yeah, it wasn't really a choice. It was more of like just the circumstances, and like it's most convenient for us to be like living in there in terms of finances.
Has that affected you in your academics, in your mental health, and anything else?
I guess academic wise, it's hard to find like a place to study. I mean, we're all doing our homework and stuff, but like, it's you can't really focus when there's so many people trying to do their own thing in just that small room.
Does your dad earn good, or does his citizenship affect him, like his legal status? Does that come all down to like how you guys are living?
Yes. Whoa. Yeah. One, he does work pretty far away, but he's also felt like he's being taken advantage. He's a very like knowledgeable man, especially when it comes to cars. He feels that he's been taken advantage of a lot because they overwork him. He works like crazy hours. Like we kind of do barely get to see him at home, and when we do, it is kind of weird because we're mostly women. So seeing my dad at home sometimes is just like, well, what are you doing here? So, we kind of clash in things. He wants to watch movies. We want to, like, I guess watch movies too, but, there's different themes that, that we prefer watching.
Okay, so now we will wrap up our podcast. Thank you so much, Leslie, for sharing your story. It is a very great one to understand the experiences and struggles that many families who are undocumented in the U.S. or migrate to the U.S. experience their life, and the lack of opportunities of jobs there is, especially now how many immigrant families have now immigrated to the U.S. And this can all just relate to how incarceration or part of the chain gangs actually impacted the amount of families who were undocumented, especially, well, actually to say the Mexican families, and how they had to find jobs and be separated from their families for a while just in order to find a job opportunity, and in order to obviously feed their families as well, and how many struggles they had to experience. So that gives us a great understanding, and thank you so much, Leslie, for sharing your story.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.